apologize for that. Oh, still saying no sound, no audio. Hopefully you guys can hear me. You're just trying to catch up to the still getting comments saying no sound. Let's see. Somebody saying take it off mute. I don't think I am muted at this point. It's back. There we go. Everybody's saying you're back and you're good. Here's the problem is like you guys see this video on a bit of a delay. So you'll if I like accidentally mute, it'll take you guys like 45 seconds or so to tell me that I'm muted, and then I'll finally see it. And then when I unmute, I have to wait about 45 seconds for you guys for you to actually hear me again, and then me to see the message. So yes, I appreciate everybody saying it's muted. I appreciate everybody now saying it's not muted. Let's start again with whatever the heck I was saying when I first started this show. Oh yes, a week ago we were all talking about how that was such a great weekend for Pitt. 2 weekends ago, when everything seemed to break right, when the Panthers did not play a game, but all the teams around them in the rankings in the ACC, they got a lot of results that broke their way. In football, in basketball, volleyball, all these teams were like winning. And then they turn around and it was just almost the complete opposite this past weekend. Everything sort of went wrong, highlighted or low-lighted as it were by Pitt's blowout loss to Notre Dame. And certainly we've got a lot to talk about in that regard tonight. We'll talk about Pitt basketball beating Bucknell. We'll talk about Pitt football's matchup at Georgia Tech on Saturday. We'll talk about Pitt basketball's matchup against UCF, Central Florida, tomorrow night. So we've got some basketball to talk there, some recruiting things as a few guys got some bumps up to 4-star status. We got a lot to talk about. So jump in the comments section, jump in the chat there, post your comments and your questions so we can have a little back and forth about this. Let's make sure I can hear him when I do. I'm going to bring Jim in to the program. Jim, I really messed that up. I was muted for at least 2 minutes. Well, people were commenting that I was muted at 8:32, but I don't usually start till around 8:31 anyway. So I was probably only muted for like a minute. But inevitably, I said all my best stuff then. And, you can never get that back,
Yeah, these don't really record. Well, I guess they do record, but if you're muted, like, yeah.
Yeah, that's not – the captions are not coming through. You have have you – like, what's the biggest – content item you've lost, either by inadvertently deleting a document or you're loading it into the content management system and you accidentally because you have a Mac, right, like me?
Yes.
Yeah, and so you do that like 2-finger swipe accidentally across the trackpad, and it just you back out of the page and then all work is lost. Do you have any really bad stories like that?
Actually, I would say they're like more recent, just like trying to get used to like the 247 network. Like I feel like Rivals would just like it would like somewhat save and like you'd be able to like here, like I don't work in the document because you will lose just about everything. And I don't think I've had to find out the hard way. There's a couple weeks ago I do like that like scouting report each week, like do a bunch of stuff, and like I posted it and like I just happened to click on it and it was like not done. So like I guess whatever I did, like I didn't save it when I like before I hit publish. So like I had to like it was like still on the front page and I was like finishing it. So
wow, really seeing how the sausage is made there. Literally, you just refresh. Every time you refresh, there's a new sentence added or something like that. That's it's tough. I had something a couple weeks ago and it was like a longer thing. I don't think it was the Aaron Donald thing, but it was something with like lots of photos in it and photo captions and all these different things that like I didn't have to rewrite anything. It was kind of a tedious process to get it loaded in the first place, and I accidentally like swiped out of it. First things first here, John Kristovich asked a question a minute ago, and I feel like this is a great place to start. He says, if Pitt runs the table, will Pitt be in the ACC championship game? Short answer, maybe. Right? Like I think when it comes down to this, Jim, as you look at it, Pitt being 5-1 in the ACC, SMU being 5-1, Virginia being 6-1, Georgia Tech being 6-1, and then a bunch of, 2 other teams, Duke and Miami having 2 losses, everybody else having 3. It really, there's 2 components, and I don't think it could be any simpler than this. And it's been this way for the last couple of weeks, I think. Pitt has to win out, and they need Virginia or SMU to lose. And if both of those things don't happen, you don't need Virginia and SMU to lose, but you need one of them to lose. SMU has Louisville and Cal. Virginia is off this week. They have Virginia Tech next week. So you have 3 games. One of them has to go your way. SMU has to lose one, or Virginia has to lose its game at Virginia Tech, and Pitt has to win out. So they could win out, go 9-3, and miss the ACC championship game, unless Virginia or SMU loses. Is that your understanding as well?
That is my understanding, and I think we talked about it last week. Like, I think everyone's like going back to the drawing board after Notre Dame, but like the ACC like scenarios haven't changed. Like,
No.
they're like I think people are trying to figure it out, and like the aftermath of the loss, and like, okay, now what needs to happen? Well, it's the same thing that needed to happen since pretty much the Stanford game.
Yeah, the notable, like it was, when we talked about, that weekend where everything broke right for Pitt, it's because Virginia lost to Wake Forest. I think it was who else lost that weekend? Did Louisville lost that weekend, right? So Louisville ended up with getting another ACC loss. So because if it was Louisville and Pitt both with one loss, Louisville would have the head-to-head tiebreaker. And so you got that second loss for Louisville, you got the first loss for Virginia. This put all those things in play, and nothing really happened this past weekend that changed that. So Virginia's off this weekend. You have SMU, Louisville. I think that game's at Louisville. And then next weekend you have Cal at SMU. It's, SMU needs to lose one of those 2 games, or Virginia needs to lose at Virginia Tech next weekend. And most importantly, Pitt needs to win out. I think, and Jim, you probably agree, I assume, and I think most Pitt fans would agree, if they win out and don't make it, because look, SMU and Virginia played well this year. They're having good seasons. They very well could win out themselves and find themselves in the ACC championship game. If Pitt wins out, goes 9-3, but misses the ACC title game, like, you got to feel pretty good about that season, right?
I would say so. I mean, because you did everything in your power to right the ship in the middle of the season. Like, you lost your one ACC game, and that's whenever you switch quarterbacks, and that's whenever you started winning games. So, like, if it ends in the situation where you go 7-1 and you lose on a technicality because, I don't know, you didn't even play SMU, you didn't even play Virginia, there's nothing you could have done differently about this. It is what it is. I mean, like, that's the unfortunate thing, and that's like kind of why I think all across college football, people are just like kind of realizing like, oh, this like 19 team, 20 team, like giant conglomerate isn't a good way to determine a champion. Like, you need divisions again, and I think slowly but surely, I think that's probably going to like come back to college football. I think, all it's going to take is like the one big school to kind of get like messed out of a tournament.
Yeah.
Or not a tournament, a championship game appearance.
Right.
So like, that's how like things usually work in college sports. It's like, if one of like the 10 select schools gets like slighted in some way, okay, now it's time we have to adjust things. But for now, I mean, like, again, like getting back to the main point, like if Pitt goes 7-1 and, after starting 2-2 and goes 7-1 after that, like, there's no way you could be mad about that.
Do you think, let's say Pitt wins this weekend, loses to Miami 8-4, they'll be complaining. There's always complaining after any loss. But for the most rational Pitt fans among us, that would have to be considered a pretty successful season, right?
I think so. I mean, I think people went into the season thinking like, okay, this team might be a little bit better, but the schedule might be a little more difficult. I mean, whatever happens this season, like, it's always going to come back to like, you lost to West Virginia, and like, that's the one game you should never have lost. And I think that's always going to be a factor when discussing this season. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, if you lose to a ranked Louisville team, you lose to a ranked Miami team that's probably going to the playoffs, you could lose to a Notre Dame team that's a national champion. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably about what this roster was constructed to do. I think it's probably about an 8-4, 9-3 team, and they just happen to, be in the right conversation, like with winning the right games to, still be into this point. You're 2 weeks left in the season. You have a chance to go to Charlotte. I mean, in most years, I think that's welcomed around here.
And I feel like before the season, we generally said like we felt like this was probably a 8-4 team that could get the ball to bounce right their way to end up 9-3. Is that generally where or do we settle in at 9-3 as our shared prediction, or do you remember how we ended up?
I think we got to 9-3. I mean, I think it kind of got to. We figured they'd lose to an early one. I think Louisville. I think I think NC State. We both agreed would be like the weird dumb loss, but like West Virginia replaced that.
That was the weird dumb loss, yeah.
And I think Notre Dame. I think we both thought Pitt would probably lose to Notre Dame in the preseason. But I think going into these final two games, at least our August logic was that, okay, Haynes King's probably going to have like 10 different casts on his body, and Miami might have lost a couple games and quit. And like half of that's true. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think we're kind of on par with what we thought this team would be.
I wonder, like, I wonder what happens if Miami loses at Virginia Tech this weekend. You know, if Miami loses at Virginia Tech this weekend, I think they are poised for a give-up loss in the regular season finale against Pitt, because that would knock them out of contention for the ACC championship. They might already be out of contention for the ACC championship game. I mean, like, maybe if Pitt beats, you know, I don't have the scenario site up. I mean, but if Pitt beats Georgia Tech and loses to Miami, right? And SMU and Virginia both lose, could Miami get in?
No. I think there's like, is there like any kind of like weird scenario where like everyone finishes 6-2 here?
So that, what I just said there, where Pitt beats Georgia Tech, loses to Miami, SMU loses both of its games, Virginia loses to Virginia Tech, and Duke wins its final two, you would end up with 5 teams at 6-2. Duke, Virginia, Miami, Pitt, Georgia Tech. And in that scenario, Duke and Virginia would go to the ACC title game, according to bball.notnothing.net, which seems reliable enough to me that I'm going to cite it as an authority. So, you know, Pitt would officially finish 4th, and Duke and Virginia would go. So maybe Miami is mathematically eliminated. Maybe if I give Duke some losses here, let's see. There we go. If Duke loses both of its games, Miami would play Virginia in the ACC title game. Maybe if Duke only loses one. No, if Duke loses any of its final 2 games, Miami will get in, because that would be 3 losses for Duke. So that's what Miami would need. Miami would need to win out. Miami would probably need Pitt to beat Georgia Tech. Yes. And it would need Duke to lose a game, and then Miami could get in. So they're not mathematically eliminated. They would be if they lose to Virginia Tech this weekend. So they might end up quitting. But for now, I don't think they've totally quit yet. They've just got some, you know, lousy losses on their resume. So that's what needs to happen. But it starts with Pitt winning this weekend. We'll get to that Georgia Tech game in a second. A few comments here. Josh Newark started off, says, I believe, Chris, you deserve some of the blame for the Notre Dame game. I don't recall multiple podcasts dedicated to how great Jeremiah Love and Notre Dame were. Had you done your part, Love wouldn't have felt so motivated. So obviously a little bit facetious there from Josh, but it is funny just because earlier tonight, you know, one of the morning pits this week, I talked about how Notre Dame was playing the disrespect card and all this stuff. And Notre Dame fans keep finding my YouTube videos. Like, it's great for the numbers, but it's just funny. So one of them commented on my video from Monday and commented this like an hour ago, said, Jeremiah Love said nothing like that. Quit making stuff up. And so I found the exact quote. Here's the quote from Jeremiah Love. Quote, me personally, I feel like there was a little bit of, they didn't respect us. They didn't really talk about how aggressive we were as a team. They didn't really talk about how much we were basically just dominators. That was a little bit disrespectful. Like, that's just dumb, right? Like they didn't talk about how much we are dominators. What was he talking about? For like, Pitt praised them endlessly all week long. Every player and coach praised Jeremiah Love and praised Notre Dame. Like, you got to be, I mean, they're digging deep to get motivation out of that, right? I mean, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like a couple years ago when like Georgia won it all, and like Kirby Smart was like trying to like be like, nobody believed in us. I was like, dude, you were preseason number 3. Like, everyone believed in you. Yeah. What are you talking about? So, yeah. I mean, coaches and the programs, and like, good on Marcus Freeman for like getting his guys to actually buy into that. Like, I think like Pat Narduzzi like gave like a love letter to Notre Dame on his Monday press conference, like, stating like how great they were, and
they're an all-American team. They're America's team. Yeah. They have the best players in America.
So it is amazing Notre Dame was able to play with like that amount, you know, just feeling that disrespected all week. I mean, kudos to them for really stepping it up and, finding a way to like play that football game, feeling so disrespected that they
I know. I always like to see the scrappy upstarts really kind of, it's like a couple years ago. I forget if it was Bryce Young or CJ Stroud was like, people have been counting me out my whole life and doubting me. It's like, bro, you were a 5-star recruit. You went to Alabama. You won the Heisman Trophy. Like, what? You're number 1 overall pick. When were people counting you out? Like, when did this mysterious time happen that you were being doubted? People have been counting me out my whole life. Oh, really? Because you were the number 1 recruit in the country. So I'm not sure who was disrespecting you there. Anyway, Josh Newark says, my serious comment about Notre Dame was our defense seemed much smaller than Notre Dame, and we seemed to miss a ton of tackles and or didn't want to appear to hit their guys. I don't think there was a lack of wanting to hit them. There was a size difference. I mean, Notre Dame was just a lot better, right? Like that was, I think you and I both said it after the game. I mean, that was just the biggest takeaway. Like, there's just a lot better. And like you just saw the difference of Notre Dame's talent versus Pitt's talent, particularly up front. I thought along the lines was where it was starkest. I mean, Jeremiah Love, Malachi Fields, those guys were awesome. And Notre Dame's linebackers are really good. They're really good across the board, but just on the line of scrimmage, defensive line, offensive line on both sides, it was just it was such a mismatch and it was such an advantage. And that's where Notre Dame won the game. And I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from the game. What was yours?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pitt just lost the game, and like I do like my behind enemy lines for Georgia Tech this week, and he's like, what'd you kind of learn from that game? I was like, not a lot. Like Pitt lost to a team that was just a lot better than they were. So I mean, like Pitt's offensive line has kind of been the struggle all year, and like they looked really bad against the Notre Dame front with a lot of dudes. Like it just like it started up front and it just kind of spilled into everywhere. But like. I guess a little bit about Josh's comment is like I thought Pitt competed on defense a little bit more than people were giving them credit for. Like, when Love had his 150 yards, but one was on a 46-yard run. His other 22 carries got 90 yards. Like, if you're Pitt, you can live with that. Like, that guy's like probably the best running back in the country. And like, I think he took some hits that game. I think CJ Carr took some hits that game. I think they threw some interceptions. I thought he looked like a redshirt freshman at times. So like that was probably the best defense Notre Dame played in a while. Yeah. And like, I mean, but they just had that ability that even if that down to down stuff wasn't working, like the big play was there. Like Jeremiah Love, like, okay, 3-yard run. Okay, here's the 56-yard run. Like, Pitt jumps off sides. Okay, let's throw it to the 6'5" wide receiver on the 5'10" corner. And it worked. And it was great. So like, they had that ability that like, okay, if Pitt was annoying them enough in like just that first down, second down, they always had another counter to it. And like, I think that was the difference. And that's what we're talking about. It's just depth. It's just having more options. It's just having more weapons. And that's just kind of what Notre Dame had.
Yeah. For a game where they gave up 4 touchdowns, I didn't think their defense played all that poorly. But it was and up front. I mean, they just push them off the ball, and I keep saying like Jeremiah Love was doing someone like the Le'Veon Bell, just sort of take the handoff and pause and wait for the hole to open up. And I mean, to your point, like he had the 56-yard run finished with 147. That's still another 91 yards on 22 carries. So, still better than 4 yards per carry that he was consistently chipping out. I mean, I think, he looked like a man among boys out there. He looked like an NFL running back. But fortunately for Pitt, that was not like what they're going to face going forward, right? Like that was an exceptional team. That was a top 10 team. And that's not what you see in the ACC on a nightly basis. And it's not what they're going to see on Saturday. Some of these numbers from Georgia Tech's defense, Jim, 2 interceptions all season, 10 sacks in 7 ACC games this year. Like, I think they have one of the highest yards per carry against in ACC games this year. They have one of the most friendly run defenses, against ACC opponents. I think they're giving up 173 rushing yards per game or something against ACC opponents. Like, there's a real opportunity here, I think, for Pitt's defense or Pitt's run game and their offense as a whole to have some success, because this Notre Dame or this Georgia Tech defense hasn't been all that great. I mean, like not just, they gave up 34 to Boston College last week. I don't really go for the transitive property thing like that, because I just think there's a lot of flaws in looking at it that way. But when you look statistically, Georgia Tech's defense hasn't been all that tough, particularly against ACC opponents. I think there's a real opportunity here for Pitt to get the offense back on track.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they give up 400 yards a game. You mentioned the 2 interceptions. 6 turnovers forced the whole year. That's next to last in the country. There's only one team with fewer turnovers than Georgia Tech. So, like, they're not like a big, they're like kind of the opposite of Pitt. Like, Pitt loves to do, big splash plays, turnover, sacks, like plays behind the line of scrimmage. You just don't see that with the Georgia Tech defense. I mean, and you try to figure out, it's like, how does this team go 9-1? Like, they give up 400 yards a game. It's easy to run the ball on them. They never turn it over. Like, what's the catch? And I think the catch is they're a ground and pound team. They run the football. They control the clock. They finish off drives. When they have the ball, they chew off time and they end up in the end zone. So they try to minimize their defense being on the field as much as possible. So if you're Pitt, you want to have those extended drives. You need to be better on third down. You need to finish off in the red zone because that's what Georgia Tech's planning to do when they get the ball.
Yeah. Just more specific numbers on what I was saying there. 7 ACC games. They've allowed 173 rushing yards per game. They've given up 14 rushing touchdowns in 7 games, and opponents are averaging 5.2 yards per carry against Georgia Tech's defense. There was something else I saw that jumped out. Oh, but then, so to your point, then you get this good on good matchup, right? Of Pitt's run defense, which, the opposite of Georgia Tech, is one of the best in the ACC. I think they've they have the least amount of yards per game allowed in ACC games on the ground. Lowest yards per carry. I think that's in the country, or at least it was prior to the Notre Dame game, right? Are they still, do you know off the top of your head if they're still in the top of that category?
I don't think they lead the country, but I think they're like 4th or 5th now. Like,
okay, so
that game.
Took a little bit of a hit. Notre Dame averaged 4.9 yards per carry. But, I mean, in ACC games, Pitt is holding opponents to 2.7 yards per carry. And teams just don't run it much against them either. Here's an interesting factoid, a little trivia question for you, Jim. Pitt has allowed 3 rushing touchdowns in ACC games this season. Can you name the player and, if you're really good, the yardage? 3 rushing touchdowns in 6 ACC games.
All right. So Holiday Smoothie had.
Oh, yeah. Good. That was the easy one.
Yeah, he broke off a big one, I think. Like 62 or something.
I thought it was only like 56. 65, excuse me.
Okay.
56 was Jeremiah Love, but that wasn't an ACC game.
That was not an ACC. Okay, so what
2
else
others.
Happened? I'm trying to remember the one Boston College touchdown. I'm guessing it was not a rushing touchdown.
It was not a rushing touchdown.
Oh, no, it was the 3rd string tight end catching a pass. That's right. Because I had all the shutout stats in my head.
Right.
The other ones I'm drawing a blank. Did Louisville get one?
Louisville did. Miller Moss had a 1-yard run from the goal line, and Florida State got one from Keziah Holmes on a 1-yard run from the goal line. So they've given up 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 1-yard runs at the goal line, and a 65-yard rushing touchdown. That's pretty good. Now, conversely, Georgia Tech leads the ACC in rushing touchdowns against conference opponents. They have 16 so far this season. Georgia Tech, obviously a very good rushing. They have the 2nd best rushing offense against ACC opponents, 199 yards per game, 5.1 yards per carry. They've run the ball 274 times against ACC opponents in 7 games. That's the 2nd most rushing attempts. They're a good running team. Haynes King is a big part of that. Pitt is a very good run defense. I love matchups like this. It's a little unique because of how Georgia Tech runs, that they have so much rushing from their quarterback. But I love like good on good type of matchups. You know what I mean? I like when you get strength versus strength, not just looking at it like, well, here's a strength and a weakness. Let's see, this is 2 teams that are arguably the best in the conference at what they do, pitting those 2 strengths against each other. I think that's fun. Do you think it's more of a unique challenge though, because of how Georgia Tech goes about it?
It's going to be unique just because, Pitt's idea, like, with stopping the run is to make teams one-dimensional, but like Georgia Tech really wants to run the football. Like they are still going to they're going to just keep running it and eventually going to try to break through. So I think it's going to be a chess match. So like, that's interesting just because like Pitt wants to take away the run, and Georgia Tech's never going to surrender the run. So, like, I think that commitment, like, I think there's going to be, sequences when Pitt can shut them down and like force the 3 and out. And there's going to be other times when Georgia Tech's going to, bust out a couple big runs. I mean, I think when you have two good units like this, like, they're bound to make plays against one another. It's just who's going to make more. And I don't know. I mean, like, I would put Pitt's run defense up for a 4-quarter game in this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Going back to the, Pitt's offense bouncing back, I was looking 3 out of the last 4 games. Some of these numbers for quarterbacks against Georgia Tech. NC State, CJ Bailey threw for 340 and 2 touchdowns. Darian Mensah at Duke threw for 373 and 2 touchdowns. Dylan Lonergan at Boston College, 362 and 2 touchdowns. Georgia Tech won 2 out of those 3 games. They only lost the NC State game because Haynes King literally had 500 yards. He threw for 400 and ran for 100, which is ridiculous. The Boston College game, he was over 400 again. He had 371 passing and 53 rushing yards. So that goes a long way. But I really think, just like Mason Heinschel had his worst game of the season against Syracuse and came back and, set a Pitt freshman record with 423 and 3 touchdowns against NC State. Like, this feels like it's a bounce back opportunity. Georgia Tech is 11th in the ACC with in total sacks, and I think they're even lower. I think they're 12th in sacks against ACC opponents. I don't think they're not getting a lot of pressure. They're not getting interception. Like, this seems I don't know if I'm predicting another 423-yard game for Mason Heinschel, but he should bounce back here, right?
I think so. And like, I think the first time he struggled, we were wondering like, oh, did Syracuse figure something out? Oh, did they find out something in his game? And like, obviously, like, Notre Dame really shut down Mason Heinschel, but it wasn't like, I don't think they figured him out. I think they just bull rushed him and just made the freshman run around and for his life at that point. So again, I mean, like, when you look at common opponents, when you look at ACC football, Pitt, Georgia Tech are 2 of the better teams in the ACC, but like, against those common opponents, like, just based on what Georgia Tech has done against what some of the teams Pitt has done, like, yeah, like, Pitt should be able to move the ball in this game. Like, Boston College is not a great offense, and like, they scored 34 points last week. Yeah. Like, that's something. Like, yeah, and like, and we saw like NC State kind of struggle against Pitt. Like, yeah, they got some yards whenever Pitt had 0 linebackers on the field, but like, yeah, like that's a team that's struggling too, and they got to Georgia Tech, and it's like, that game, I think Georgia Tech kept like pushing, like trying to make a comeback, cut it to 7, but like NC State answered every single time. So like, if it gets into one of those shootout type of games, like, is Georgia Tech's offense really or defense really going to come up with a big stop? Because in the past 2 weeks, they really haven't.
Yeah. I think the last time I saw the over under was 61.5. What are you taking? Taking over on that?
I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd like to watch a good up and down college football game on Saturday. I could buy that. I really could. Like, I think, like, Georgia, there's going to be so much emotion in that stadium. It's like senior day. Like, this is Georgia Tech's year. Like, these seasons don't come around very often for programs like Pitt and Georgia Tech. They're very similar in that regard. So like, this is their 2021. Haynes King is their Kenny Pickett. Like, this is like, they have everything in the world to play for. So like, there's gonna be a lot of energy in that stadium on Saturday. And I think there might be some big plays on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I might take the over on that. Kenny Gizmo says, I think Pitt got caught up in all the media attention for the Notre Dame game. I believe that the players and coaches turn it around this week. Pitt 37, Georgia Tech 31. I don't think they got caught up in the attention. I think they might have been a little too hyped up, and that's why you end up with things like drop passes or stuff like that. But Kenny's going 37-31, so he's taking the over on 61.5. And like, I was like, oh, that's a big number. I don't know. But yeah, I could absolutely see like 35-31, 38-34, something like that. I mean, I could see this game with both teams getting into the 30s. Josh Newark wants me to have you ask Pat Narduzzi tomorrow if anyone's done for the season. I didn't like the look of Des Reed's injury, he says. Well, I'm going tomorrow, so maybe I'll ask it. People have said, though, Jim, and I didn't see it myself, so I can't swear to it, but people have said that they saw Desmond Reed later in the game on Saturday running up and down the sideline, jumping and things like that. Did you see that, or have you seen the reports of that at all?
I remember, like, people were talking about it, like, there's like a million things going on at the end of that game, and you're getting ready because, like, at that point it was decided, but there were people in the press box next to us saying like, "Oh, there's Dez like walking around," and so I was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't see it, like I couldn't spot him, but I know when he got hurt and left early in the NC State game, they made him put a boot on like immediately. Like, dude, like just put it on. We'll figure it out later. They didn't make him do that on Saturday, which is probably encouraging, a good sign. So like, if they can get some snaps out of Des Reed this week, that'd be great. But like the fact that he was like kind of walking around, like again, we didn't see it ourselves, but like that suggests like he's not done for the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly. I'm going to take everyone's word for it. It certainly would be a positive sign. Swim Boyd says, "Has there ever been a script version of the Panther-Lair logo?" No, there hasn't. I used to play around before the colors changed. I would do like the Twitter logo would be like white background and basketball season because they wore white at home, and then when it got to football season I would switch to like a navy background, and that was cool. It was just kind of switching things up, but I've never had a script version. Pretty content with it how it is, and don't have any intention to look into it or trying to make new versions or change it. Pitt would probably sue me or something anyway, right, if you try to write something in cursive. Pitt fan H2P says, hopefully Cade and Mason can get the receivers involved early and often. I mean, they did the other day, right? Like the receivers, I know the first couple of plays went to Desmond Reed, but I mean, is this my notes for the game? I think it is. What were the other first plays? Oh yeah. So it was Des Reed for a 19-yard pass, Des Reed handoff, 12-yard pass to the tight end, and then a perfectly drawn, perfect route run by Raphael Williams and a perfect throw. So the receiver was involved there, and then 3rd and 8, another pass to a receiver. So, I mean, they tried to get those guys involved early. I don't know if you need to force feed it, but yeah, Raphael Williams needs to get going. Kenny Johnson needs to get going. In your view, do you think Kenny Johnson was just covered, that Notre Dame just devoted a lot of attention to him, or just nothing really worked in the pass game? You can't really read too much into any of it.
Probably the latter. I mean, like how many times was like Heinzel dropping back and there was already a dude flying right at him. So like, yeah. I know in those situations, and I didn't go back and like watch the film like in a detailed manner, but I think Pat Narduzzi, one of the criticisms of his wide receivers was that whenever Heinzel was scrambling, guys weren't coming open. And that's like scramble drill. Like that's a thing wide receivers work on all the time. It's like, okay, these are the spots where you need to be because that's where his eyes are going to be. So like, I guess they could do a better job with that. I didn't watch it myself. I'll take the head coach's word for that. But yeah, I don't know if like they really isolated Kenny Johnson or just shut him down. Like they shut the entire offense down.
Yeah. Mark Shoju says, personally, I feel like the Notre Dame game showed the gap between Pitt and the national title contenders. Is there any possible way ever that Pitt closes that gap? Yeah, I mean, you could go all out, go all in, and I mean, it's about loading up the roster with talent and everything like that. Anything can happen on a given day, but you need, if you're Pitt and you're going to win a game like that, or they won the Clemson game in 2016 or the West Virginia game in 2007, whatever it is, like if you're going to do that, everything has to go your way. You need a few things to bounce right, and it just has to be almost a perfect day for you. And that's hard to rely on. The more talented teams can get away with making mistakes and still win and win comfortably. The further you slip away on that talent gap, the more perfect you have to be. And so it's hard to win consistently like that. But I think thankfully for Pitt, or the fortunate thing for Pitt and the vast majority of other programs, is that the vast majority of other programs are around the area that Pitt is around. And so it's funny coming out of, I put up a tweet about this and a post on the board about this today. It's funny coming out of the Notre Dame game when Pitt scored one offensive touchdown, and I don't count that really as happening. It happened after a timeout called with 6 seconds left to play and time expiring, which apparently really made Notre Dame mad, but nobody seemed to be complaining about Notre Dame going forward on 4th down 3 times in the 4th quarter. Hey, who am I to judge? It's funny to say it, though, after a game where they basically didn't score on offense. But they do have the leading offense, the highest scoring offense in the ACC against conference opponents. And even if you take out the 3 defensive touchdowns, I think they're second in the ACC in offensive touchdowns per game against conference opponents. They're averaging 4 offensive touchdowns per game in their 6 ACC games. Duke is averaging 4.17. So I think Duke has 25 and Pitt has 24. Like, they're actually a really good offense. And no, they didn't look good against Notre Dame, but the vast majority of their games are not against Notre Dame. They're not against Notre Dame caliber teams. They're against West Virginia, Louisville, Boston College, Syracuse, NC State, Stanford, Florida State, Georgia Tech, even Miami. Like, teams in that middle tier. So you'd like to ultimately get to a point where you're better than everybody, Ohio State and Alabama and all of those teams. But you can also win a lot and achieve a lot and have a lot of success just beating those teams in your tier, which is what makes up the vast majority of the ACC, particularly this year when Clemson's down, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think if you're Pitt, like there's a, every couple of years you're going to have a run, or you're going to have that right team where everything just clicks. And I don't know if it was this year's team. Like, they weren't picked very high. Like, we were both thinking they were like an 8-4, 9-3 team. Like, on your best years, you want to be able to like compete with Notre Dame. And I would say, like, on Pitt's best year, like the 2021 team, like, they would be able to compete with a team like that. So, like, I don't know if this was Pitt's best team. Like, they're a nice story right now. They're in contention. Like, they have a chance to do something. But this isn't the year where everything was supposed to come together. And there are so many teams in that middle tier that need that one season, that need that magical year where the senior quarterback comes back, the defense is loaded, the offensive line's good, there's weapons, and like this is a flawed Pitt football team. So like I don't like, yeah, like on a year-to-year basis, like Pitt is probably an 8-4 type team, and this is what they look like. But like, there are going to be years wherever everything comes together. I just don't think this is that year.
Yeah. And even if you can get that year, I think it's tough to sustain it. Like, I'm really interested to see what 5 years of Indiana with Kurt Cignetti looks like, because like we've seen other kind of like outlier programs build some success. Like Michigan State was like really good for a couple of years. The last couple of years that Narduzzi was there, and I think the year after he left, they made the playoffs. They made the 4-team playoff. Washington had a little run there where they made the playoffs. TCU had a little run, but they weren't able to sustain it past 3 to 5 years or so. They were good prior to that, and might have even still been like good after that. But as far as being in that upper echelon, consistently top 10, top 12, maybe top 15 team, they weren't able to sustain that. I'm interested to see Indiana's hot right now, and Indiana is the thing that doesn't belong. When you look at the rankings and the polls, and I don't want to discredit what Kurt Cignetti's done, but I'm interested to see how long it can be sustained, because I think that's ultimately one of the many things that separates sort of the very elite from the very good, is not just getting there and having that one year, that one magical year where you make the playoffs, like SMU had last year, but being able to do it like consistently. And that's a tough thing to pull off. And we haven't really seen a non-power program do it, right? Is there another one that's in that? Like, A&M is there and hasn't been there for a while, but like, you sort of expect A&M to be there with their resources and being in the SEC and everything like that. You expect that, it's not like, again, Indiana's the outlier right now. And if they can continue to be the outlier, then they'll stop being an outlier. Right. But I don't know how long they can sustain it. Anyway, I do, talking about sustaining things, our good friend Chris Gates is back sponsoring the Wednesday live show on the Panther-Lair podcast this week. And if you've listened before, you know that Chris is one of us. He's a long-time lifelong Pitt fan, a football season ticket holder since 1997 and part of the Panther-Lair community. And Chris runs Chris Gates Fitness, where he works as an online fitness coach, helping busy parents and professionals lose weight, build muscle, and get healthier, all in a realistic, sustainable way that actually fits around work, family, and life. He coaches a ton of fellow Pitt fans who've learned how to make progress without giving up the foods they love or the tailgates on Saturdays. And now Chris even offers a coaching option with a weight loss guarantee, so you can move forward with total confidence that your effort will pay off. Right now, he's running a Black Friday sale for the entire month of November, and Panther-Lair listeners can get 75% off their first month of coaching at chrisgatesfitness.com/Panther. coaching. Chris says he's doing this because this time of year is when most people don't invest in themselves. Everyone's focused on taking care of others, getting through the holidays, but that's exactly why he wants to make it easier for you to start now. By getting in early, you'll learn how to navigate the holidays successfully and head into January way ahead of everyone else who's waiting for the new year. And as a Pitt fan, who knows? You may need help navigating extra tailgates and watch parties the rest of the year if this team finds itself having a little success in the postseason. Chris only has 10 spots available, though, and they're going to go fast. So if you're a Pitt fan ready to make a change, you want a coach who gets what your life actually looks like, head to chrisgatesfitness.com/coaching. It's Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Gates, G-A-T-E-S, fitness.com/coaching and submit your application. Chris will reach out directly to you to talk more about your goals and what type of plan will work best for you. So go to chrisgatesfitness.com/coaching. The Black Friday sale, 75% off your first month with a weight loss guarantee. All right, got a super chatter in here. Jack says, in the Pat Narduzzi era, why has the defense turned more 3-star recruits into NFL talent than the offense? Also, thanks for everything. I miss living in the Berg, and your content helps me feel connected. Hey, that's, I think that's the fun part, is that you guys are from all over the place. And, whether it's the message boards at Panther-Lair.com or right here on YouTube, we get to all kind of gather. This is our own little sports bar, I guess. As far as turning 3-star recruits into NFL talent, I mean, I think the thing, Jim, and we've talked about versions of this over the years. One, they have a very clear idea of what they want on defense, of what types of players, physical abilities and attributes, and mental abilities, what they can get and learn and be coached on. Like, they have a very clear idea of what types of players they want on the defense. They're very good at evaluating, and they're really good at coaching them up. On offense, I mean, I think one thing is they've just changed coordinators so often. They've changed offensive schemes so often. And so, Pat Narduzzi's obviously been here 11 years. Archie Collins and Corey Sanders have been here, probably 7 years, 8 years, something like that. Randy Bates has been here 7 years, 8 years. Tim Doush just got here last year, but, Charlie Partridge is here for 6 years before that. They have stability. They have consistency on the defensive side. And so they have a really clear idea of what they want, and they're able to go get it. They're able to find it, and they're able to get it. And more often than not, they've been right about the fit. Whereas offensively, you're changing all the time. You have new coaches all the time. I don't think there's enough consistency to really build up anything and get a real sense of what you want to do and who you want to do it with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it kind of starts from the top too. Because whoever Pat Narduzzi's defensive coordinator is, Randy Bates obviously does a lot and throws a lot of wrinkles, but at the end of the day, this is still his scheme and what he wants. So I think whatever the head coach is kind of the CEO of that side of the ball, there's a good understanding. There's continuity. Everyone knows what he wants. And he has a coaching staff that's just kind of been around for a while. So yeah, they're good at finding Kalijah Cansey's and Kyle Lewis's and Rasheem Biles and Chris Brookins and guys like that. And they're going to keep doing it. I mean, there's guys I just did my NFL report of the week, and talking about guys like Eric Hallett. He was a nobody from Texas, a guy they took at the last second, and he's on the Detroit Lions right now. I mean, that's just kind of the stuff they can do. So,
yep. Marlon Barnes Truther wants to know, anybody going to get Magic City wings this weekend? Jim, you going to Magic City in Atlanta?
I mean, I'll be in Atlanta. I don't think I'm not going to go to Magic City.
Fine. I mean, I think they're open late. So even though it's a 7:00 game, I mean, what time's your flight home? When are you coming home on Sunday?
9:30. So I'll have a nice little nap at the hotel.
Yeah, you might as well just go to Magic City and then go from there to the airport.
I guess I could. Which NBA player broke the bubble to go get lemon pepper wings from Magic City?
Yeah, I forget. That sounds
it was it was a story. They're like, bro, where'd you go? He's like, these wings at Magic City, man.
I remember somebody in the Athletic did an article on Magic City wings, and it was great. And they took a picture of the wings with their cell phone, but because of the lighting in there, the wings were pinkish purplish in the most strip club lighting way possible. If somebody just showed you a picture of these wings and they were like, where do you think this is from? You'd be like, strip club. And it's still weird to me that it's known as this dining destination, that the wings are really popular, even though it's a strip club. I don't know if I would want, I don't know, but I've been to, Atlanta for Pitt Georgia Tech games many times, and even for other things, I've been to Atlanta a lot of times, and I've still never gone. You can see it if you take the train, like the MARTA from the airport. You go past it, like you go past
Okay.
because I feel like it's when you see Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and then you like look down, and it's like kind of right there, right in front of it. So Big L says, is there any way Desmond Reed can get a medical red shirt? No, I think he's played way too many games in way too many years. He hasn't played a full season any of his years, but he's played too many games to pull that off. TVAX1 says, not sure if you've made more efforts, but I think you both post comments more frequently on 24/7, and I appreciate your thoughts and interactions mixed in along with your original content articles. I like posting on the boards, Jim. Sometimes it drives me crazy, and sometimes I like close my laptop in a forceful manner, and I'm just like, I can't deal with this crap right now. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, you people are out of your minds. But like, even if like the people on the message board are lunatics, like they're our lunatics, and like we're all in it together. And like what I like is, it's all anonymous other than you and I, it's all like anonymous handles. Nobody really, few people have met off the board, and so they kind of know each other, but like you like learn personalities associated with these anonymous handles, and like no idea what these people look like, no idea what the sound of their voice is, but I hear it in my head when I read their posts, and I see like somebody replied. I'm like, oh God, here we go. He replied to my post. All right. Like, roll up your sleeves, open like the ACC stat sheet, because you're going to have to start and it was like somebody like today. It was like, I just wonder, is Pat Narduzzi the kind of guy to get Pitt to be consistently a top 3 program in the ACC? And I'm like, I hate to do this, but they are 3rd in ACC wins over the last 10 years. So like they are, because but you just, I don't know. It is a community, and I think that's a big part of what brings people back to sites like ours, not just ours, but sites like ours, is that community on the message board. And even if it drives me crazy, it's still fun. It's still fun to talk about sports, right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, like if that's like if there's days where like we don't have a press conference or a game to go to, like going to work is just like opening our computer. And so like you guys are my coworkers, and sometimes you guys really drive me crazy, but like it is what it is. And
yeah,
I think Sundays after losses, I let you guys go. Like I'm like, I'm gonna go watch the NFL.
Yeah.
Like I got my fantasy lineup. I'll let the bomb go off for like 12 hours. I'll see what's going on Monday morning.
Yep. Alan Olive has a bunch of predictions. Don't see SMU losing. Don't see Virginia Tech beating Virginia. Don't see Pitt beating Georgia Tech. I wonder about. Are you looking up the Virginia Tech series?
Virginia just never beats Virginia Tech, even the years they're supposed to beat Virginia Tech.
So that's what I'm curious about. Like scrolling back.
It's
here on
62,
Wikipedia,
38, and 5 all time.
Virginia Tech has beaten Virginia the last 4 games in a row. They lost to Virginia in 2019, which was the year Virginia won the Coastal. And then the last Virginia win before that was 03. So Virginia Tech won in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just making sure they didn't skip a year. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Virginia won in 2019. And then 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Virginia Tech won. So, even since this century, Virginia has won twice. And both of them were in Charlottesville. That was in 2003 and 2019. So
they shouldn't lose that game, but like
no.
There's a lot of history saying that they choke every time they play Virginia Tech, and it's always Thanksgiving weekend. I think it's one of those, it's always this week.
Yeah. I'm looking at the dates. Last year, November 30th, the year before, the 25th, the 27th, December 12th, but that was 2020. That was the COVID year, but 29th, 23rd, 25th. It's always this last weekend in November. And it's at Virginia Tech this year, right? Oh, they did not play in 2022. I'm sorry, because there was the mass shooting on Virginia's campus. So they did not play in 22, but the other years. But I think it is at Virginia.
It's in Charlottesville, I think.
Oh, is it?
Last year was Blacksburg.
It was, but
did it new rotation or something?
Why don't I know this? Here, hold on. Here's Virginia's. Yeah, it's in Charlottesville. My mistake. So I guess Virginia has that going for them. They've their last 2 wins, their only 2 wins this century were in Charlottesville. So we'll see. Weird things happen in those rivalry games. Weird things happen. Travis Spagnolo says, quick sidebar. I've been to South Bend twice. Those people were so freaking nice, but the people who are Notre Dame fans that attend games elsewhere, like Pittsburgh, wow, are those people awful? Stark difference. I didn't interact with any Notre Dame fans. Did you, Jim?
Not like specifically, but like the thing is, like the Notre Dame fans you're talking about that were in the North Shore are like your neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're like all those people wearing green on Saturday are from Pittsburgh, Johnstown, Erie. Like they're not from South Bend, Indiana. So I don't know. I mean, I think they get a reputation, and it is what it is.
Yep. Big L says Louisville can definitely beat SMU. I think Pitt could beat Georgia Tech, but according to the ACC huddle, Miami is twice the size of Notre Dame, and Notre Dame threw us around. They were twice our size. Yeah, I mean, like, we talk about Pitt winning out, this and that, but like Miami's defense, I mean, you talk about pass rush, you talk about edge rushers. Miami's got the best pass rusher in the ACC, right? Maybe one of the best in the country. I mean, like, was it Ruben Bain? Is it Bain or Baines?
Bain? I think just Bain.
Okay, good. At least there's only one of them. But, like, he is really good. And, like, that's a scary matchup. When we think about Pitt and how they handle good pass rushes, that's going to be a tough one. But let's just we'll pretend like it matters.
Isn't Miami, like, this talented every single year?
Right. Exactly. Let's see. Scrolling through here, just because we got a few minutes left. Big L says 8 wins would be successful. 7 wins is not. Georgia Tech is beatable. I don't know about Miami. Yeah, I don't think you would feel good about 7-5. I think you'd feel okay with 8-4, and you'd feel legitimately good about 9-3. But I think you'd feel pretty good about 8-4, right?
Yeah, I definitely think you need to get one. And I think, like, at the start of this 3-game stretch, like, Notre Dame felt like it was going to be the toughest. Miami's probably the second toughest. And, like, Georgia Tech, like, on paper should be the most beatable, like, just based on common opponents, based on talent level, based on where both teams recruit. Like, when they look up across the line, they're going to look like a team that they practice against every day. Like, it's a similarly built team. So,
yeah. Michael Balseric says, with how the first quarter of the season went, you have to be happy with where we stand, but they need to step up and play at a high level. And if that is not good enough, so be it. Yeah, I think it is one of those things, and we talked about it before the Notre Dame game, talking about going into the final quarter of the season of like, look, they started off 2-2 to get to this point that they're at where they won 5 in a row, or where they're now 5-1 since then. It's good. It's an accomplishment. It's success, but you're setting the table. You're giving yourself an opportunity to really have success. And I think, given how bad they looked against West Virginia and Louisville, given how poorly those games went and how grim the outlook seemed to be, I think it's been successful so far, and it can be as successful to win in these final 2. Travis Spagnolo says, I think rev share and NIL helped with parity among teams at Pitt's level, but it really widened the gap in the trenches between the top 10% and the next 80% of teams. You saw that on Saturday. I don't know. I feel like that's where a lot of the separation sort of always occurs. You think about like high school football back when it was 1A, when it was 4 classes, or even now with 6 classes in Western Pennsylvania, right? Like, the biggest difference between 1A Clairton and 4A Central Catholic, or 6A Central Catholic, or whatever, it's not the skill guys. Like, Clairton had skill guys, like they have guys who can run and good receivers and all this stuff. It's the lines. The lines are what separate. Those big linemen on both sides of the ball are what separate the smallest classification from the biggest classification. And I think when you get to college football, one of the biggest separators, I mean, you look at defensive linemen at, in the SEC, you look at offensive linemen in the SEC or in the Big Ten. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's on another level. And we always say, Jim, too, I feel like you and I have talked about this when people ask about, why is it so hard to recruit offensive linemen? I think part of the problem is like, it's really hard to project guys from high school to what they're going to be 4 years from now when you're counting on them, or 3 years from now when you're counting on them. And the guys who clearly stand out in high school and look like sure things, they're going to the biggest programs. So for everybody else, it's a much bigger crapshoot of like, all right, well, you're 17 now. We hope that when you're 20, you're going to be this thing, but we have no way of guaranteeing that. Whereas the guys who you can feel pretty confident about it, they're not going to Georgia Tech, right? A lot of them aren't going to Pitt. They're not going to Boston College. They're going to Alabama and Ohio State. And that's where the separation is. And I don't know if that's as much about NIL or rev share as it's just kind of what it's always been.
Yeah, I mean, I think revenue sharing, like, I think it's going to be felt for teams like Pitt, like in terms of like being able to retain your players and not lose like key players to transfers. But like, I don't know if it affected like the overall ability for those schools to recruit linemen, because like Notre Dame's known for their linemen. Like we talked to Ryan Baer last week, and I asked Ryan Baer because like he got offered by Notre Dame, and he was like, "Yeah, it was a big deal. Like Notre Dame always produces great linemen. Like that caught my attention whenever they offered me." So like, I think that's just a thing Notre Dame has always had. Like, I think a lot of these teams that are good have been good before NIL and revenue sharing have been part of the ecosystem. Like, we're just kind of, you could just kind of see the numbers attached to it now. So it always comes down to linemen. You never know. It's a tough thing to project. I mean, we've seen Pitt land a couple 4-star linemen, and it's like, that didn't work out. We've seen Pitt land Matt Gonsalves from the middle of, Long Island, where they don't produce good football players. And like, he's an everyday starter in the NFL in his second season. Like, how does that work? You just don't know. You have no idea how these guys are going to turn out by the time they're 23, 24 years old.
Yeah. Where did I see? This was a good. Oh, Alan Olive points out that Georgia Tech hasn't lost at home since 2023. I'm sure that's probably been well publicized. I didn't really realize it, so I was just kind of looking through their schedule. Last year at Bobby Dodd Stadium, they beat Georgia State, VMI, Duke, who ended up going 9-4, so that's a quality win. At home, they beat Miami, who was number 4, and then they beat NC State, who went 6-7. So that's not a lot of home games, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 home games. That's all they played last year. I mean, they have Georgia. They played Florida State as a home game, but they played it in Ireland. Let's see who they lost to in 2023. If we go back that far, they beat South Carolina State at home. They lost to Bowling Green at home in 2023. They also lost to Boston College at home in 2023, and they lost to Georgia at Bobby Dodd Stadium in 2023. Oh, well, I mean, they haven't lost at home in whatever.
Pitt hasn't lost in that stadium since 2017.
Yeah, you're right. And Pat Narduzzi's only lost to Georgia Tech twice, right?
Yeah.
17 and 2022. That was another thing on the message board, or maybe I think it might have been on the message board, or maybe it was on Twitter of like, man, Narduzzi, hasn't been able to win against Brent Key, or Brent Key's got like, has been owning Narduzzi for years. And I'm like, well, he's only coached one game against him. And that was 3 years ago. So
he does own the series. Yeah,
he does. He does have a 1-0 record against Pitt. It's weird that Pitt and Georgia Tech haven't played in 3 years.
I miss the Coastal, man. Like I miss those rivalries, and like Pitt's going to Virginia Tech next year, and like that's just exciting in general. I think like who the new head coach at Virginia Tech is awesome, but like I think those schools should play every year. Like it's a great road trip. Like if you're a Pitt fan, like looking to dabble and go to a road game, experience something new, like I'd say Virginia Tech's a really good one that's within reason.
Yeah, there's just nothing to do other than the game, and it's almost impossible to stay in Blacksburg.
Yeah,
and there's nothing to, but the campus is really cool, the stadium's really cool, and all that stuff. But yeah, I miss seeing Pitt play Virginia Tech every year, Georgia Tech every year, Duke every year, North Carolina every year. Like I want to see those teams every year. Miami, fine, but like I miss seeing Pitt play. Did I forget somebody? Virginia. I miss seeing Pitt play Virginia every year. Like I liked seeing those. I would much rather see Pitt play Virginia, Virginia Tech, Duke, Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Miami rather than see them play Louisville or see them play Wake or NC State. That does nothing for me. You know, you built up some like familiarity and dislike, familiarity with and dislike for some of those other coastal teams, and there's just no upside to it. I mean, like to go back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, there's just no upside to not having divisions. It's better in every way, and not the least of which is that like all this nonsense about what needs to happen in tiebreakers and all that crap, like it's just easier for the fans and the media to look at it and be like, okay, here's where you are in the standings. Here's what you need to do. You either can win and have this happen and you're in, or you lose and you're out. Like it's just easier. It's better in every way. There is no downside to divisions other than like Wake Forest still hasn't played a game in Pittsburgh and Pitt has been in this conference for 13 years.
Pitt hasn't played in Raleigh.
Pitt has not played at NC State, and they've been in the conference for 13 years. Now, COVID messed some of those things up. I don't know if were they supposed to go to Wake Forest that year, maybe?
I think so. Like, I think that was, but still, like,
yeah,
once in that many years. I mean, like, there's just like some teams in this conference that you don't even feel like are in the same conference.
Right. And Pitt has played at Florida State twice, but one of those was a COVID year. But I think they were supposed to play Florida State in 2020 anyway. So. And then they've had Florida State here twice, right? 2013 and 2023. So at least they've gotten a couple of games there. Clemson's only been here once, right? 21?
No, like last year.
Oh, yeah. Clemson came here last year. Weird. Anyway, all right. It's past 9:30. We don't need to recount Pitt's home and road series against every ACC opponent. We can do that on another show in the offseason. But all right, Jim, have fun in Atlanta. Appreciate you hanging out tonight. Thanks everybody who tuned in for the live stream, all the comments and questions. It's been a lot of fun. Stay tuned to Panther-Lair.com for lots of great content through the rest of the week, getting you ready for Pitt, Georgia Tech, and of course, all the coverage from the game here on Panther-Lair.com and YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We'll have a post-game show after the game on Saturday night. It'll be a late one, but that's fun. The weirdos come out at night, and I count myself among them, so we'll have a good time with that for sure. All right, make sure you like and subscribe. Have a good rest of your night. We'll catch up with you tomorrow for the Morning Pit right here on YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com.